I think I get it. I get the business. I don't even blame Gervonta Davis really. He's making 20 or 30 million. But let's not call it boxing because it's not boxing.
Let's welcome him back to the Punch podcast, Eduardo Theodore Hernandez. It's always great to see you.
You've been watching too many of those YouTube interviews. You have.
No, not at all, mate. I'm not trying to fire up. You know what I mean, you never bite back.
No, never. How are you?
Mate, I'm good. It's great to see you back in Australia too, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, it was important to get back. I mean, really want to do 6 shows a year here. Obviously did Opetaia against Naika, went really well. Kambosos, Wylie. And I promised that we'd be back to support Jake after that great performance against Kambosos. And he's in a really good fight against Uwee Dib. I think could be a domestic fight of the year. Obviously, Sky Nicholson in her first championship fight at 122. Alex Leopold Jr., plenty of other stars on the card as well. Looking forward to the old Fortitude Hall. Bit rough and rowdy, great atmosphere. All live on DAZN this weekend.
Get it. Don't miss it. It's Saturday night too for if you are in Australia or wherever you are around the world, work out the maths. But it's going to be a great one. And how much do you know about Uwee Dib? Because for someone that does know a bit about him, being me, it's a must win. Like this is a huge must win for him.
Quite a lot. I mean, a lot of these guys in Australian boxing and girls as well always reach out to us for the opportunity to fight on the big stage. And Uwee's a guy that's been doing it for years and years. I actually bumped into him in he was a sparring partner with Liam Parro for the Subriel Matias fight. And in Puerto Rico, he had an accident on a bike and he smashed his face up. And he come up to me at the presser and he was like, please give me an opportunity to fight. I thought, you might not even fight again, stay your face, and he's come back. And I watched the fight with Liam Wilson, which outside of the knockdowns in the first round, I thought he, could have won the fight. And it was a brilliant fight. And I just know that Jake Wylie always comes to fight. And I think this is going to be a war between these two guys. And, I think sometimes when you get two guys that don't have a lot to lose, but have everything to gain, you just get great fights. Both these guys, I promised them, I said, the winner of this fight will be involved in a big fight internationally. And even the loser, if they put up a great fight, we're going to work with them again. So just give the fans value for money. That's what they want.
Uwee definitely does that. And Jake obviously saved the show for you against George Kambosos and put up a performance where it was like, holy wow. I think even George was shocked halfway through that.
5 days notice, he deserves the chance.
Yeah. Which is awesome. Sky back in the country as well. Great to have her home. And we're at a new weight for her, this one, aren't we?
Yeah, 122. I mean, just like completely looks like a different beast. Obviously lost that world championship, which was a devastating defeat in Sydney, and has just bounced back. I think sometimes you can think you're preparing right and doing everything right. And it's only when you get beat, you kind of strip it back and really look at what you're doing. And she's just gone to another level. Like, I think everyone, even today at the press conference, is like looking at the shape of her, the size of her down at super bantamweight, just coming off a stoppage in Manchester. A good step up on Saturday, her first championship fight at 122. And she's looking like a different kind of, I think she'll shock a lot of people with this performance on Saturday. She's kind of been renowned for great footwork, great mover, very technical. Now she's really starting to believe in herself and coming off the stoppage. I wouldn't be surprised if she got another one on Saturday.
Because that's always been the thing with her. Hey, she was just trying to get a few more stoppages and see that knockout power. And maybe she's found where she needs to be. One good thing I did like about her, though, in this one is it looks like obviously she's had the defeat, but then come back, didn't break a spirit. Like, I guess she's had that.
Yeah.
She's had the experience that and come back hungry and determined and has changed things. And you can see it in what I've seen on social media.
Yeah, and I think that's a really sign of a true competitor, and a great work ethic as well. You've seen that kind of resilience before in the Olympics. She lost the real close fight where she could have won a medal and, that could have gone another way. But again, bounced back and turned pro out of nowhere. And the Tiara Brown defeat was devastating. There was a lot of hype in the fight. There was a lot of bad blood. And when you lose your world championship, it's a tough, pill to swallow. But you got two choices. You can sulk about it or you can come back stronger. And I really believe it will be the making of her. I think she's one of the biggest names in female boxing right now. And I think she's going to start putting together the performances that will suit the profile and the image and everything. And, it's a big fight for her on Saturday.
Yeah, it's great to see you out here, Matchroom, supporting Australian boxing and seeing two great Australian fighters in a headline event too. So we're not against each other. It's a great one to see you're part of. So yeah, I guess thanks for having that one on. And the undercard looks great. There's some great names on there as well, and there's like 10 fights or something from what I've seen. So
Yeah, there's always plenty of fights on these Australian cards, and it's difficult sometimes bringing opponents over to this part of the world.
yeah,
It's obviously very costly to fly all these people around. So sometimes you're limited to domestic fights. We're working here with Steve Della, Fortitude Gym, really good boxing people. It's their 40-year anniversary of the gym. So it's a big night for them, live on the zone around the world. And I think Australian boxing is in a great place. You've got some tremendous fighters. I mean, we talk about Alex Leopai, look at Terra Moana, look at Justice Honey. They're all three very young heavyweights that I think can really be involved in some big fights. And obviously Jai Opetaia, looking great. You've got some great female fighters as well. And it seems like you have shows, big TV shows virtually every few weeks. So I think the market's strong here and I think you've got a lot of talent.
yeah. I was at the Nikita Tszyu fight last night, and that was, as far as a attendance crowd as well, was packed.
Mm,
People are
yeah.
coming out to them and they're enjoying them, and it's great. You did mention Jai Opetaia there. I think that's probably the biggest question in Australian boxing. I wouldn't be surprised if he was trying to lurking out your door, trying to like pin you for answers himself. But what's going on? Like, I think the answer is, why is this guy not had a unification? I understand the Zerdo stuff and whatever else, but it's at the point now where it's almost ridiculous that the guy can't fight.
Yeah, I think the first thing is obviously he's very good and he's feared, and I think that's always a problem when you're trying to face the other champions. We agreed a deal with Turki Al-Sheikh for Jai to fight Zerdo Ramirez. Unfortunately, Ramirez got injured, and there's not a lot you can do. I don't think they're lining up to fight Jai, but if the money's right, I think they will do it, and I think there was a chance for that to happen. But with Zerdo getting injured, now Jai has to fight his mandatory Sin Cara, which it's not ideal. But the other option is to move up to heavyweight, and I just feel like it would be a shame for him not to unify the division first. So I think we'll fight Sin Cara around November, December time. And if we don't get a unification after that, then it might be time to step up to heavyweight. It's probably a little bit earlier than anticipated, but you just can't wait around forever. So we'll be doing our job to try and lock in that unification, but it has to come really in early 2026.
Is there a reason why he's not eligible for the WBO interim that came up? I know it's one.
Yeah, because he's a champion with the IBF, so they wouldn't put him forward for that belt. But you don't really want the interim title, then you're going to be in a bit of a logjam. What you want is Zerdo to have the appetite to try and prove himself as the best in the division. I mean, I know these guys want money, but you'd think that you'd want to also prove that you're the best. But I think they know how good and how dangerous Jai is as well, and it's not easy.
Yeah, I didn't. I was talking to his dad last night at the Nikita Tszyu fight, and he hadn't realised that interim belt and all that's in play, and he was just like, "This is a
Mm.
joke." Like, I guess they're sort of fed up. They're peddling water, and they just don't know what to do. There's nowhere to move, and you're right. It's
Mm.
the downside of being so good,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. It's quite flattering, but it's also very frustrating.
Yeah, when I think because the WBO, as you know, is the bucket list belt. That's the one. So,
Yeah,
but look,
yeah.
he would be phenomenal at heavyweight. I couldn't help but watch Moses Atuma the other night and just dream what that might
Mm.
fight might look like. Like
Yeah, I mean,
that.
I also think Jai against Usyk is a tremendous fight. Like two obviously smaller heavyweights, they would be two guys with tremendous footwork. Two great southpaws. But really, I always felt like Jai. If we could move Jai up as undisputed, then we could walk into some massive fights at heavyweight. So it's a bit of a frustrating period, but that's sometimes the boxing politics, and it's our job to try and unravel it.
Sin Cara guaranteed next fight. Is that the fight?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that again, like sometimes with these mandatories, you have to fight them or you lose your belt. So, yeah, it's a much tougher fight than his last fight, against the Italian, but it's still a fight that he's a big favourite in. But other than moving up to heavyweight, you have to take the fight, otherwise you lose your belt.
I want to see him unify for the sole reason of not having to do the rehydration clause. I think he'd be a killer.
Yeah, yeah,
Imagine Jai Opetaia without that. That
yeah. I
fucking
mean,
wild.
that's and it was only recently where that changed from £10 and they extended that number. For a long time, cruiserweights could only rehydrate 10 pounds. So, I think as Jai gets a little bit older, you're going to see that weight become harder and harder to make. And that's when I think a move to heavyweight will be inevitable.
Is Turkey not the sort of guy that can just make these things happen? Because, like, I know obviously you are yourself. You're the most
Yeah,
powerful
I mean, he
fighter.
does that. I mean, to be honest with you, without Turkey,
Yeah.
because of the money that Zerdo wants, without Turkey, that fight's impossible to make.
Yeah.
Impossible. But with Turkey, it's still difficult because of the challenge of Jai Opetaia and maybe the desire of other people. They wanted to make that fight for November 22nd, and we agreed our end
Mm.
of that fight. We were in.
Yeah.
And as they were negotiating with Zerda, unfortunately, he realised he had to have surgery, and then just the fight's out and off. But His Excellency wants to make that fight. I think pound for pound, it's one of the top fights in the sport.
Mm.
So hopefully Zerdo can get fit again soon, and we can get it made.
No Badu Jack. That's not an option.
The problem is Badu Jack's now been ordered to fight that rematch,
Yeah.
and no one's really interested in the Badu Jack fight. Badu Jack wants millions and millions and millions to put his belt online against Jai Opetaia. And, quite honestly, commercially, he's not worth millions and millions and millions. And it's not, Turkey's not interested in the Badu Jack fight.
Mm.
Turkey's interested in the Ramirez fight because that's the best fight in the division.
Yeah. Which is obviously the one that we want to see too, more than Badu Jack. I get it.
For
So
sure, for sure.
hopefully
Yeah.
that can happen. But yeah, what did you make? Obviously, you're out. You saw our very own Sam Goodman over in Riyadh against Nick Ball. That was one hell of a performance. Hey.
Yeah, done well. I mean, I thought the fight, I thought he lost, but I thought it was a lot closer than certainly 118, 110. It's disappointing when you see cards like that because you kind of think to yourself, what was the point in me trying? He's a good fighter. I think he'll really gain in confidence from that good, profile rose. And, I thought he gave a very good account of himself.
Yeah, Turkey also tweeted too, saying that he really liked him, would love to see him sound around some
Mm.
more Riyadh cards and stuff like that. Obviously, he's promoted by No Limit, but is there an option that you might see him over there? How do those deals work? They haven't worked together before.
Yeah, I mean, I think, obviously there's a lot of fighters that are discussed for slots on those cards. And every fighter that does well, Turkey will say, we'll have you back.
Yeah,
Whether they do come back or not, or when they get the opportunity. He's great for boxing and he loves giving fighters opportunities. But obviously, there's only so many fights on a card. So it's just really, it's never a fight. I think he will definitely be considered for fights in the future, but also you need a dance partner.
yeah.
So if there's someone around that weight that's looking for a good fight, I think, Sam would be a good option to get back on one of those cards.
Yeah, we've got some firepower at the moment. I found interesting former Matchroom fighter now currently with No Limit, but Liam Parro at 147. What do
Mm.
you see with him at welterweight?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I never expected that move because I didn't realize he was tight at 140. He wasn't the biggest 140, but he's got an eliminator for the number 2 spot now. So if he wins that, he'll then get an eliminator for the number 1 spot now, and that'll be to fight our champion, which is Lewis Crocker and Paddy Donovan, and those guys fight September 13th. So Liam's a great fighter, and hopefully he can come through that, and then he'll have to fight another fight against the Mexican. It's a very dangerous fight to become mandatory.
Do you have like that soft spot where you'd love to be able to get him that fight as well, even though you might not be his current promoter?
Yeah, I love Liam. You love Liam and Angelo and the team. Alfie, very good fighter, good guy, and wish him all the best.
Yeah. What'd you make of Tim Tszyu over the last fight with Fundora? It's an interesting one, and one thing that I'd be interesting to see what you say about this one because one thing I've seen is a lot of people sort of thinking that it's over for Tim, but you've seen he's fought the greatest in the division. Like Anthony Joshua wasn't over. Like, come on. So like
Yeah, I mean,
there's
I
room. I
think
think
I
there's a
think that
road.
the reality is Tim. I think he's I don't mean to be harsh on this, but he's been found out at elite level, and that's no disgrace. Like Tim is a world class fighter, but he hasn't been good enough to beat the champions. The first Fundora fight he was a bit unlucky. He had the cut, but it was a very, very hard fight. The Mutsalayev fight, he got demolished, but he may be a beast, that guy. We don't know till he fights again. And then in the Fundora fight, the rematch, he got bashed up in that fight. So you got to be careful because he's taken a lot of damage, and those fights become taxing for you. But just because you lose to a world champion doesn't mean you're not a good fighter. I mean, like, he's a very good fighter. He's a world-class fighter. He's just not good enough to beat the world champions at the moment. Now, maybe he can come again. Maybe he can improve. But sometimes, you're fighting over here and you're bashing people up. And I think people just think you can just walk through these champions, and you can't do it. You've got to be a little bit smarter than that. So I think at this stage, it's all about his desire. He's obviously made money. Physically, he's been in some tough fights, but I'm sure he can come back. And like I said, he's a world-class fighter.
What's the play here for him? What would you do? You're
I
looking.
would bring him back in Australia with a couple of sort of confidence building fights. But as a fighter, you've got to have the desire and make the investment in yourself to come back in those smaller fights. The money goes down. Some people go, I'm not fighting for that kind of money. But actually, if you've got long-term desire, that's what you need to do. You need to get back in the groove. I don't know if there's a new trainer, a new team, whatever. You've got to get your confidence back, and you've got to get firing on all cylinders so that when you go back into a 50-50 fight, you're actually ready. Because one more defeat, it's all over for him. So hopefully he can come back stronger.
Before I let you go, it would be rude of me not to bring up the latest one that dropped this morning. Come on, that's hot. Jake Paul, Tank Davis. Let me
Wild one. I
let
mean,
me inside your brain.
he's gone from heavyweight to lightweight real quick. I don't know. I mean, for us, I said about the AJ stuff. If he really wants to fight, it could happen. I knew that there was a potential for him to fight in November because we're talking about our fight in February or March. And I was actually the one that dropped that Jake Paul and Gervonta was agreed months ago. But I didn't expect it to be announced this morning.
Yeah.
Just a weird one, really. A 6'2", 220-pound guy fighting a 5'5", 135-pound guy. You're giving up 80 pounds or something, and it's an exhibition with 14-ounce gloves or something like that. I don't know. I think I get it. I get the business. I don't even blame Gervonta Davis, really. He's making 20 or 30 million. But let's not call it boxing, because it's not boxing. In boxing you have Queensberry rules, and they are 10-ounce gloves or 8-ounce gloves for 147 under, 3-minute rounds, like weight classes for a reason. That's boxing. This is just entertainment and the circus era, but money's money and the game's the game, and I understand.
Especially when Tank's been saying, I'm over boxing, I'm out, I don't even want in.
I think he is. I think he's checked out and he's just going, listen, I'm going to go and have an exhibition with this guy and make 20 or 30 million, and that's probably me done. It's a bit sad that he doesn't have the desire to create a legacy in the sport, but each to their own. He could either make 5, 6, 7 million to fight Lamont Roach in a 50-50, or 30 million to have a spar with Jake Paul.
Yeah. And then
what are you going to do?
Yeah. Then dig up Lamont Roach in 6 months, 8 months.
Maybe, or you maybe never see him again.
Yeah, that's probably more likely, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Geez, he's awesome to
It
watch.
is. It is. It's a great fight.
Unbelievable. What's on for the rest of the year for you, mate? Before we wrap up?
We got Mexico coming up. Then we got the big fight in front of 25,000 in Belfast. Crocker Donovan, Ben Eubank, November the 15th. Boots is back, October the 11th. Brazil, September 27. Dave Allen's fighting Akhmedov in Sheffield, October the 11th. So yeah, non-stop, week in, week out.
Just racking up those frequent flyer points, mate.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, but he still will dip his sandwich into mayonnaise.
Of course, always. Got to keep it real.
Chat with you, mate. I love always getting you on this show. You're always great. You give us plenty of time. Eddie Hearn, don't forget, Saturday night, live on DAZN around the world from Brisbane's Fortitude Music Hall. Jake Wylie, Uwee Dib, Sky Nicholson, she'll be on the card too, and a range of stars. So check it out on DAZN. Eddie Hearn. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate. Catch you soon.